Hello everyone, welcome to my sharing on before after concept total unchanged using ratio. Looking at this particular slide, we can see that before and after concepts involved four big areas. The first one being difference unchanged. The second, one item unchanged. Another one is total unchanged. And finally, we have all items change. Now, difference unchanged concept was actually shared in my previous video. For today, I'm going to talk about total unchanged. All right. Now, for the before and after concept total unchanged, in some book it is known as constant total. So for total unchanged, there are two cases, two scenarios. So the first one is internal transfer, simply saying whatever has been removed from A is being transferred to B. All right, so let's say, for example, apples from box A removed from box A and transferred to box B. All right, so that is the idea of internal transfer. And then the other one is value, whatever has been, the value that's removed from item A has to be the same as the same value added to item B. Now for today, I will focus on internal transfer, and I will share on a different video for value removed equals to value added. All right, so for today, we will look at internal transfer only. Now, to illustrate what is before after concept total unchanged on internal transfer, I am actually using this question from PS Solly 2018 paper 1, question 26. It is a 2-mark question. I have actually modified this question, or rather I extended this question, right, for part A and part B. You will have a better idea in the next few slides. Okay, let me begin. So, taking a look at the question, Sally had 40 stamps and Ting had 32 stamps. So, it is always very, very good to highlight the important information. So, Sally had 40 stamps, Ting had 32. All right, so that is the first information is definitely referring to before. That means at the start, before any change has taken place. All right, so this helps us to get started on model drawing. Okay, so I'm going to draw a model to illustrate Sally having 40 stamps and Ting having 32 stamps at first. All right, so before model, I use S for Sally and T for Ting. So Sally had 40, Ting had 32. So I'm going to label 40 here for Sally, and I'm going to label 32 here for Ting. All right, now we know very well that Ting gave some stamps to, or rather Sally gave some stamps to Ting. Alright, so I'm going to do something to my before model. So let's take a look at what is happening here. Sally gave, so I'm going to cut, let's say here. Now I'm going to do a crossing. Cross out means this part is gone, right? And this part belonging to Sally is being transferred to Ting. So I'm going to draw dotted line. Okay, so this portion came from Sally. Okay, now from here, I'm going to draw the after model for a clearer illustration. Okay, now to draw after model, it's always very important to have the same starting line. Okay, let me change the color. Yep, so same starting line. All right. Okay, so again, Sally's model after ends here. The red portion is removed. Then as for Ting's model at the end ends here. Right? We follow this part. Okay? Right? Okay, we follow this part. So it ends here. Now, okay, my model is not drawn to scale, but we have a special information in the model, in the question, sorry. This is the one. In the end, the ratio of 1 to 2, 1 belonging to Sally, 2 belonging to Ting. Alright? So Sally in the end had only 1 unit. Alright, so I'm going to write this down. Sally had 1 unit and Ting had 2 units. Okay, of course my model doesn't make sense, but it is not drawn to scale. Okay, now we have already discussed earlier in my earlier slides that when we have internal transfer, in this case Sally transferred some stamps to Ting, there is something that is unchanged. So the things that is unchanged in this case is the total. The total is constant. So let's get the two totals first. Now, what is the total before? The total before means, let me write down. Total before will be Sally's plus Ting's. That will be 72. So 72 stamps in total before. Now, what about the total after the transaction? So total after, we have 3 units. Okay, 3 units in total. 1 unit belonging to Sally and 2 units belonging to Ting. So since this question involves internal transfer, that means total unchanged, we can conclude that these two must be equal. So 3 units must be 72. Okay, all right, so if 3 units is equals to 72, let's find what is 1 unit. So 1 unit will be 72 divided by 3. Okay, that gives us 24. Now, in the question, we are supposed to find how many stamps did Ting have in the end, right? How many stamps did Ting have in the end? Now, Ting, in the end, she had 2 units. So let's find 2 units. So 2 units will be 24 times 2. That gives me 48. So Ting had 48 stamps in the end after receiving from Sally. Okay, I have extended the original question to get a part B, to have a part B, question part B. All right, so let me show you in my next slide. So in the previous slide, the first answer for part A, all right, is Ting had 48 stamps in the end. Now, how many stamps did Sally give to Ting? As shown in this question here. Okay, I purposely extended one part of it so that it will become a 3-mark question because I'm just curious. I want to know how many stamps Sally gave to Ting. All right, so we know that Ting received from Sally. All right, so I'm going to do something a little bit different. Now we know that Ting before, all right, Ting before, she had 32 stamps at first. In part B, in part A, we know that Ting had 48. All right, so one more time. Ting had 32 stamps at first. In the end, Ting had 48 stamps after receiving from Sally. So from these two information, I can find out what Ting received from Sally. So Ting received 16 from Sally. 48 minus 32 equals to 16. All right, so the question is solved. Now I'm going to do the same question, this time using ratio without model drawing. It is still the same question, so I'm going to move on a little bit faster using ratio. So before and after. All right, so ratio Sally to Ting. Sally had 40 at first. Ting had 32 at first. The ratio after is this one. Ting had 1 unit. Sorry, Sally had 1 unit. Ting had 2 units. Now, since Sally gave stamps to Ting, so we already know long time ago, just now, that it is internal transfer, total unchanged. So I'm going to introduce total here and total here. So we should be able to know the total before and the total after. So for the total before, we will take the before ratio. That is 40 plus 32, that is 72. And then the total after is 1 unit plus 2 units, that is 3 units. Because it is internal transfer total unchanged, I can very clearly say that these two must be the same. All right, so I'm going to write down an equation. 3 units must be 72. 1 unit will be 72 divided by 3. That gives me 24. Okay, back to question A. Question A asks, how many stamps did Ting have in the end? So in the end, Ting had these two units. So part A, Ting after is 2 units. So 2 units must be 2 times 24 or 24 times 2. That gives us 48 found. So A is done. Now what about the extended version for part B? All right, so part B will be the same way because part B does not require any ratio. All right, so we will use the same way like what we did previously. So Ting before right? Ting had 32 stems at first. Ting after we found it in part A. Ting after 48 stems. So Ting received from Sally 16 stems. So this is part B answer. Alright, so that's how we handle such question involving before after, total unchanged, or constant total. Okay, let's do a quick recap. Total unchanged has two parts or two scenarios, two cases. So we did one just now on one particular case. This is the one that we did. All right. In my future video to be uploaded, I will be sharing on this. Okay. All right. As mentioned, okay, I will be also uploading videos on one item unchanged and all items changed and many other more. So you can be on the lookout. All right. Okay. So if you like my today's sharing, don't forget to click on the like button. All right. And to be informed of my videos to be uploaded or being uploaded, do click on the bell button for notification and do subscribe to my channel. Thank you for listening. I hope you find this explanation, this particular video clear. All right. Okay, once again, thank you for listening, and do share with your friends, anyone who wants to know more about before after concept, total unchanged. All right. And don't forget, scan the QR code to visit my Facebook. Thank you for listening. Take care.